Good morning, Year 4. This is my hints and tips video for our maths lesson today. What is area? So area is simple to understand. Okay, the area is the space inside a 2D shape. So our first question today asks us to use 4 sticky notes to make as many different rectilinear shapes as you can. Okay, that word rectilinear means made using straight lines and right angles. Okay, so a shape using straight lines and only right angles. I've put on the board 4 different, these would be fine, you could make them with this sort of shape, but you probably have ones that are square. If you don't have any sticky notes, then you could just measure and cut some square pieces of paper, okay, and making different shapes using the 4 post-it notes that you have, or sticky notes that you have. Okay, so I'll do a few examples using these ones on the board because they're easy for me to fit. Okay, so I've just managed to do 3. All right, you have to bear in mind these should be flat to the board, but they're just sticking up a little bit. There are lots of different variations that you could do with your sticky notes. Okay, so it would be good to record some of them. Try to avoid doing repeating ones that are just the same shape but in a different rotation. Okay, so question 2 says Amir covers a rectangle with some counters. So here's the rectangle, and then here's the rectangle with the counters on it. And then it says Amir thinks the area of the rectangle is exactly 20 counters. Is Amir correct? And what you need to think is, we know that the area is the space inside the shape, all of it. And you can see that the counters do not fill all of the space. Okay, so just think whether or not Amir is correct and then explain why. Simple one for number 3. Eva draws this shape A to the left. So in here, draw a triangle with a smaller area. So it just needs to be a triangle that is smaller than this one. And B to the right, draw a triangle with a greater area. So it needs to be a triangle that is greater than this one. Okay. So I'm not going to go through number 4. Number 5 says a longer object will always have a greater area than a shorter object. Okay, so I've drawn a couple of rectangles, and you can see this one has a longer length than this one, but you need to think about the area inside each rectangle. So just because it has a longer length, does it mean it will have a greater area, a bigger area? Here I have Eva is measuring the area of the tabletop. She has covered the table with exactly 28 sheets of paper. So I think you need to decide that the whole of the table is covered by the paper and that there are absolutely no gaps between any of the pieces of paper. And it then goes on to say she covers one sheet of paper with sticky notes. And the question is, what is the area of the tabletop in sticky notes? And I think this is a really poor example. Okay, so the sticky notes there should be no gaps, and they should fill the piece of paper completely, which in this example they don't. So we're going to roll with it and say, okay, to cover each piece of paper there needs to be 8 sticky notes, and it will cover the area completely inside the paper. So we need to remember that there were 28 sheets of paper. Okay, so we have 28, and each piece of paper is going to have 8 sticky notes. So how many sticky notes will cover the area of the tabletop? And the last question, question 7, says Kim thinks the area of the rectangle is 12 squares. Is Kim correct? And I think it's obvious that the squares that are on here are not covering all of the rectangle, because we can see some of the blue. And the squares are not the same size, so we can't measure the area in different size squares. Also, they're not covering all of the blue. Okay, so work hard, have fun. A simple lesson, I think, for you today.